How are you guys doing? Today is Thursday, February 18th, 2021, out here in this quarantine. I'm James Sims, and for this episode of The Elite, I'm going to review all of the Elite matchups and performances from yesterday, Wednesday, February 17th. And of course, I'm going to preview all of the big matchups to look forward to today as we navigate through the world of sports one day at a time. Of course, getting started in the NBA, as of course the NFL and the MLB are out of season. I'm going to start with the primetime matchups that were on last night. Starting in Philadelphia, the Eastern Conference leading Philadelphia 76ers took on the Houston Rockets and were able to pull up a 118-113 win over the Rockets after outscoring them by 14 in the first and 12 in the second to combine for a 26-point first half deficit. And the Houston Rockets tried to come back, but it just wasn't enough in the end. For the Rockets in this matchup, their leading scorer was their elite starting point guard, John Wall out of Kentucky, who finished with 28 points, 3 rebounds, 7 assists, and 2 steals, along with 7 turnovers in 36 minutes, as Wall shot 11 for 24 from the field, 2 for 8 from 3, and 4 for 5 from the line. And for the Philadelphia 76ers, their starting shooting guard, Seth Curry, finished with 25 points and 5 assists, as well as 2 steals and 5 turnovers in 37 minutes, as Curry shot 8 for 13 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and 6 for 6 from the free throw line. The Philadelphia 76ers starting power forward, Tobias Harris, would finish with 24 points, 15 rebounds, and 5 assists, as well as 2 blocks in 37 minutes, as Harris shot 8 for 17 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and 7 for 8 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Philadelphia 76ers was their elite starting center, Joel Embiid out of Kansas, who finished with 31 points, 11 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 steals, alongside 6 turnovers in 37 minutes, as Embiid shot 10 for 21 from the field, 1 for 3 from 3, and 10 for 12 from the free throw line. With this win, the Philadelphia 76ers are 19-10, holding the best record in the Eastern Conference. Within the playoff picture, they are a game and a half ahead of the second-place Brooklyn Nets. And with this loss, the Houston Rockets are currently 11-17, which ties them with the Oklahoma City Thunder for the second worst record in the Western Conference, as they are 12.5 games behind the first-place Utah Jazz, and they are sitting 4 games out of the playoff picture behind the 8th seed Denver Nuggets. Jumping to the other game that was on primetime last night, the Golden State Warriors hosted the Miami Heat, and after the Heat were able to outscore the Golden State Warriors by 15 in the first half, the Warriors were able to come back, tie it up, send it into overtime, and then Seth Curry would take over as the Warriors would beat the Heat 120-112 in their new arena. For the Miami Heat in this matchup, their elite starting small forward, Jimmy Butler, would finish with 13 points, 12 rebounds, 11 assists, and 3 steals, alongside 5 turnovers in 41 minutes, as Butler shot 6 for 15 from the field and 1 for 2 from 3. And the leading scorer for the Miami Heat was their elite starting center, Bam Adebayo out of Kentucky, who finished with 24 points, 5 rebounds, and 7 assists, as well as 2 blocks in 34 minutes, as he shot 10 for 16 from the field and 4 for 5 from the free throw line. For the Golden State Warriors, their starting small forward, Andrew Wiggins, would finish with 23 points and 8 rebounds, as well as 6 turnovers in 38 minutes, as he shot 8 for 16 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3, and 3 for 4 from the line. Their starting shooting guard, Kelly Oubre, would finish with 23 points, 8 rebounds, and 3 steals in 44 minutes, as Oubre shot 9 for 15 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and 1 for 2 from the line. The Warriors' their goated starting point guard, Stephen Curry, would finish with 25 points, 7 rebounds, 11 assists, and 2 steals in 42 minutes, as Curry shot 8 for 25 from the field, 5 for 20 from 3. He took 23 pointers, and he shot 4 for 4, a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Golden State Warriors would be their small forward off the bench, Ken Bazemore, who finished with 26 points and 8 rebounds, alongside 3 steals in 38 minutes, as Bazemore shot 10 for 19 from the field, 4 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. With this win, the Golden State Warriors are 16-13, which is the 7th best record in the Western Conference. Within the playoff picture, they are a game behind the 6th place San Antonio Spurs and a half a game ahead of the 8th place Nuggets. And overall, they are 8 full games behind the Utah Jazz. Looking at the other games that happened last night, the Cleveland Cavaliers San Antonio Spurs game did get postponed, but jumping out to Orlando, the Orlando Magic hosted the New York Knicks and were able to pull off a 107-89 win after outscoring the Knicks by 21 in the second half. in order to pull off their 11th win of the season. For the New York Knicks in this matchup, their leading scorer was their starting power forward, Julius Randle out of Kentucky, who finished with 25 points and 7 rebounds, as well as 5 turnovers in 36 minutes, as Randle shot 11 for 19 from the field. For the Orlando Magic, their leading scorer will come off the bench as their shooting guard Terrence Ross finished with 30 points, 6 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks in 30 minutes, as he shot 10 for 16 from the field, 5 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the line. With this win, the Orlando Magic are 11-18, which is the 12th best or the 4th worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they currently sit 3.5 games out of the playoff picture behind the Charlotte Hornets, and they sit 8 games behind the first place Philadelphia 76ers. With this loss, the New York Knicks are 14-16 as they have the 6th best record in the Eastern Conference. Within the playoff picture, they are a game behind the Boston Celtics, and the Toronto Raptors and the Charlotte Hornets are half a game ahead of the Chicago Bulls that are on the outside looking in at the Eastern Conference playoff picture. Jumping to Boston, the Boston Celtics hosted the Atlanta Hawks, and the Atlanta Hawks would end up beating the Celtics 122-114. After it was a pretty back and forth game for most of it, but the Atlanta Hawks were able to kind of dominate the second quarter, which gave them the momentum to come away with their 12th win of the season. For the Boston Celtics in this matchup, their starting shooting guard Jaylen Brown out of Cal would finish with 22 points and 7 rebounds in 35 minutes, as he shot 6 for 20 from the field and a perfect 8 for 8 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Boston Celtics would be their elite starting small forward, Jason Tatum out of Duke, go Duke, as Tatum would finish with 35 points, 6 rebounds, 6 assists, and 2 steals in 35 minutes, as he shot 11 for 21 from the field, 3 for 9 from 3, and 10 for 11 from the free throw line. For the Atlanta Hawks, their starting power forward, John Collins out of Wake Forest, would finish with 20 points and 6 rebounds in 28 minutes, as Collins shot 6 for 9 from the field and a perfect 8 for 8 from the free throw line. The Hawks starting center Clint Capella would finish with 24 points and 13 rebounds in 33 minutes, as Capella shot 10 for 13 from the field. And the leading scorer for the Atlanta Hawks would be their elite starting point guard Trae Young, who finished with 40 points, 3 rebounds, and 8 assists, as well as a couple of steals. He also had 8 turnovers on the night, as he shot 14 for 20 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 8 for 8 from the line in 35 minutes. With this win, the Atlanta Hawks are 12-6, which is the 10th best record in the Eastern Conference, as they currently sit 1 game behind the Charlotte Hornets for the 8th place spot, and overall they are sitting 6.5 games behind the first place Philadelphia 76ers. And with this loss, the Boston Celtics are now 14-14, which is the 5th best record in the Eastern Conference. Within the playoff picture, they are half a game behind the 4th place Indiana Pacers, and they are a full game ahead of the 6th place, 7th place, and 8th place Knicks, Raptors, and Hornets. But with that said, moving on to Washington, D.C., the Washington Wizards hosted the Denver Nuggets and were able to beat them 130-128. The score was tied going into the last possession, as Bradley Beal would draw the foul and eventually hit the 2 free throws to give the Wizards their 9th win of the season. For the Denver Nuggets in this matchup, their elite starting center, Nikola Jokic, would finish with 33 points, 7 rebounds, 9 assists, and 2 steals in 37 minutes, as Jokic shot 12 for 21 from the field, 3 for 5 from 3, and a perfect 6 for 6 from the line. The leading scorer for the Denver Nuggets and tied for the game high was Jamal Murray, their elite starting point guard, who finished with 35 points, 9 rebounds, and 6 assists in 40 minutes, as Murray shot 13 for 25 from the field, 5 for 10 from 3, and 4 for 5 from the free throw line. For the Washington Wizards, their elite starting point guard, Russell Westbrook, would finish with 12 points, 13 rebounds, 12 assists, and 2 steals, alongside 8 turnovers in 39 minutes, as Westbrook shot 5 for 15 from the field and 2 for 6 from the free throw line. For the Wizards, their elite starting shooting guard, Bradley Beal, would finish with 25 points, 4 rebounds, and 10 assists in 37 minutes, as he shot 8 for 20 from the field, 1 for 5 from 3, and 8 for 8 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Washington Wizards would come off the bench, as their small forward, Davis Bertans, would finish with 35 points in 30 minutes, shooting 9 for 11 from the field, 9 for 11 from 3, as in all of his attempts were from 3, and he made all 8 of his free throw attempts on the night. With this win, the Washington Wizards are 9-17, which is the 3rd worst record in the Eastern Conference win percentage-wise. They are currently sitting 3 full games behind the Charlotte Hornets for the playoff picture on the outside looking in. And overall, they are trailing the Philadelphia 76ers by 8.5 games. And then with this loss, the Denver Nuggets are currently sitting at 15-13 with the 8th best record in the Western Conference, as they currently trail the 7th place Warriors by half a game, and they are ahead of the ninth place Grizzlies by a full game. Jumping out to Minneapolis, the Minnesota Timberwolves hosted the Indiana Pacers, and the Pacers were able to pull off the overtime win, beating Minnesota 134-28 after a pretty back and forth game from both sides. For the Minnesota Timberwolves, their starting point guard, Ricky Rubio, would finish with 20 points and 13 assists in 35 minutes as Rubio shot 6 for 13 from the field, 3 for 6 from 3, and a perfect 5 for 5 from the line. The Timberwolves' elite starting center, Karl Anthony Towns out of Kentucky, would finish with 30 points, 10 rebounds, 2 steals, and 2 blocks in 37 minutes as Towns shot 8 for 19 from the field, 2 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 12 for 12 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Minnesota Timberwolves would come off the bench as their shooting guard out of Florida State, Malik Beasley, would finish with 31 points and 3 steals in 41 minutes as he shot 13 for 25 from the field. For the Indiana Pacers, their starting point guard, Malcolm Brogdon, would finish with 32 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists, as well as 5 turnovers in 41 minutes, as Brogdon shot 12 for 22 from the field, 6 for 7 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Indiana Pacers would be their all-star power forward, Domantas Sabonis, who finished with 36 points, 17 rebounds, and 10 assists, as well as 3 steals in 46 minutes, as he shot 13 for 21 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and 9 for 11 from the free throw line, as I think he had the performance of the night. With this win, the Indiana Pacers are sitting at 15-14, which is the 4th best record in the Eastern Conference. In the playoff picture, they are sitting a game and a half behind the 3rd place Milwaukee Bucks, as well as half a game ahead of the 5th place Celtics. Overall, they sit 4 games behind the 1st place Philadelphia 76ers. And with this loss, the Minnesota Timberwolves are now 7-22 with the worst record, I believe, in the NBA, as they sit 17 full games behind the 1st place Jazz, and they currently sit 8.5 games behind the 8th seed Denver Nuggets for the playoff picture. Jumping out to Chicago, the Chicago Bulls were able to beat the Detroit Pistons after being down by as much as 25 in the game. They were able to come back and they were able to outscore the Pistons by 15 in the 3rd and 6 in the 4th, and were able to pull off their 12th win of the season. For the Detroit Pistons in this matchup, their leading scorer would be their starting small forward, Jeremy Grant, who finished with 43 points in 38 minutes. Of course, a career high for him, the first time he's ever scored 40 points in his career. Jeremy Grant would shoot 15 for 25 from the field, 4 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 9 for 9 from the line. And for the Chicago Bulls, their leading scorer will be their starting shooting guard, Zach Levine, out of UCLA, as he finished with 37 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 3 steals, as well as 5 turnovers in 35 minutes, as Levine shot 14 for 22 on the night, 4 for 6 from 3, and 5 for 7 from the line. With this win, the Chicago Bulls are currently sitting at 12-15, which is the 9th best record in the Eastern Conference, believe it or not. They are currently sitting a half of a game outside of the playoff picture behind the Charlotte Hornets. They are also sitting 6 games behind the 1st place Philadelphia 76ers. And with this loss, the Detroit Pistons are 8-20 with the worst record in the Eastern Conference, as they currently sit 5 games out of the playoff picture and 10.5 games behind the Philadelphia 76ers with their 8-20 record. Going out to New Orleans, the New Orleans Pelicans hosted the Portland Trailblazers, and the Trailblazers were able to pull off a 126-124 win after Damien Lillard's super clutch go-ahead and one, which I believe was the NBA play of the night to help put Portland over New Orleans. And with this win, they now have 18 wins on the season. For the New Orleans Pelicans in this matchup, their starting point guard, Lonzo Ball, would finish with 21 points and 5 assists in 36 minutes as he shot 7 for 14 from the field, 5 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. Their elite starting small forward out of Duke, Brandon Ingram, would finish with 14 points, 5 rebounds, and 6 assists in 32 minutes as he shot 4 for 12 from the field and a perfect 6 for 6 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Pelicans would be their elite second-year power forward, Zion Williamson out of Duke. Of course, go Duke. Zion Williamson would play 34 minutes as he would put up 36 points, 6 rebounds, 4 assists, and 2 steals, shooting 12 for 18 from the field, 1 for 2 from 3, and 11 for 15 from the free throw line. For the Portland Trailblazers, their starting shooting guard out of Duke, Gary Trent Jr., go Duke. He would put up 23 points in 34 minutes, shooting 7 for 14 from the field, 5 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 4 for 4 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Portland Trailblazers would be Damian Lillard, their elite starting point guard out of Weber State, as he would play 38 minutes. He would put up 43 points, 4 rebounds, and 16 assists in those 38 minutes. He would shoot 14 for 28 from the field, 7 for 16 from 3, and a perfect 8 for 8 from the free throw line. With this win, the Portland Trailblazers, like I said, are now 18-10, which is the 4th best record in the Western Conference and the 5th best record in the NBA, behind the 76ers. And right now, looking at the playoff picture, they are 2 games behind the 3rd place Los Angeles Clippers, as well as half a game ahead of the 5th place Phoenix Suns. And overall, they are 5.5 games behind the Western Conference leading Utah Jazz. With this loss, the New Orleans Pelicans are 12-16 with the 4th worst record in the Western Conference, as they currently sit 3 games out of the playoff picture behind the Denver Nuggets, and they currently sit 11.5 games behind the 1st place Utah Jazz. Jumping up to Memphis, the Memphis Grizzlies were able to host the Oklahoma City Thunder and pull off a home win, beating them 122-113 after outscoring them by 8 points in the final quarter. For the Oklahoma City Thunder in this matchup, their center off the bench, Mike Muscala, would finish with 21 points in 26 minutes, shooting 7 for 11 from the field, 5 for 9 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. And the leading scorer for the Oklahoma City Thunder would be their starting shooting guard, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander out of Kentucky, who finished with 22 points and 6 assists in 33 minutes, shooting 6 for 14 from the field and a perfect 8 for 8 from the line. For the Memphis Grizzlies, their starting small forward out of UCLA, Kyle Anderson, would finish with 20 points, 5 rebounds, 5 assists, and 5 steals in 26 minutes, shooting 7 for 11 from the field, 2 for 3 from 3, and 4 for 6 from the line. Their elite starting point guard, Ja Morant, would finish with 15 points, 11 rebounds, and 12 assists in 35 minutes as he shot 4 for 14 from the field and 7 for 8 from the free throw line. Their starting center, Jonas Valanciunas, would finish with 22 points and 12 rebounds in 28 minutes, shooting 9 for 12 from the field and 4 for 6 from the line. And tied with him for the team high in points would be their starting shooting guard out of Duke, Grayson Allen. Of course, go Duke. Grayson Allen would finish with 22 points in 32 minutes, shooting 7 for 13 from the field, 6 for 10 from 3, and a perfect 2 for 2 from the line. With this win, the Memphis Grizzlies are sitting at 12-12, which is the 9th best record in the Western Conference, as they are 1 game out of the playoff picture behind the Denver Nuggets, and they currently sit 9.5 games behind the 1st place Utah Jazz. And with this loss, the Oklahoma City Thunder are 11-17, tied with the Houston Rockets for the 2nd worst record in the Western Conference, as these teams currently sit 4 games out of the playoff push or the playoff picture, and they are 12.5 games behind the 1st place Utah Jazz. And then jumping to Los Angeles, to the Staples Center, last but not least, the Utah Jazz were able to beat the Los Angeles Clippers 114-96 after outscoring the Clippers by 23 points in the second half after a pretty close first half. But for the Los Angeles Clippers in this win, their leading scorer will be their starting shooting guard, Lou Williams, Lemon Pepper Lou, who finished with 16 points, 6 rebounds, and 6 assists, as well as 5 turnovers in 35 minutes as he shot 6 for 18 from the field and 3 for 4 from the free throw line. For the Utah Jazz in this matchup, their elite starting center, Rudy Gobert, would finish with 23 points and 20 rebounds in 32 minutes as Gobert shot 8 for 12 from the field and 7 for 8 from the free throw line. And the leading scorer for the Utah Jazz, and for the game that matter, would be their elite starting shooting guard, Donovan Mitchell out of Louisville, who finished with 24 points, 7 rebounds, 7 assists, and 4 steals in 33 minutes as he shot 9 for 22 from the field, 2 for 6 from 3, and he shot 4 for 6 from the free throw line. With this win, the Utah Jazz are 24-5 with the best record in the NBA, and in the Western Conference, they currently sit 2 games ahead of the defending champions Los Angeles Lakers. And with that said, that's what the NBA was looking like yesterday, looking to see what primetime matchups are slotted for today. Because it is Thursday and a lot of the games there's going to be a couple of TNT matchups. The first one will be at 7:30. The Bucks will host the Raptors. As I imagine when they scheduled this game, they probably expected the Raptors to be a little better. And then following that, the defending champions Los Angeles Lakers will take on the Brooklyn Nets, as this seems to be a very possible NBA Finals matchup. So that's going to be a very big game to watch. And then also at the same time at 10, the Kings are going to host the Miami Heat, and those are the 3 games that are going on tonight for Wednesday. Taking a look out to college basketball, 17th ranked USC hosted unranked Arizona State, and the Trojans were able to beat the Sun Devils 89-71 as Evan Mobley, their freshman, would put up 22 points, 9 rebounds, and 7 assists. With this win, 17th ranked USC is now 18-3 as they are 12-2 in the Pac-12. And with this loss, unranked Arizona State is 7-10 as they drop to 4-7 in the Pac-12. Also, 19th ranked Tennessee hosted unranked South Carolina, and the Volunteers were able to beat the Gamecocks 93-73 behind Victor Bailey Jr.'s 29 points. With this win, 19th ranked Tennessee is now 15-5 as they are 8-5 in the SEC. With this loss, unranked South Carolina is 5-10 and they are 3-8 in the SEC. Also, 22nd ranked Loyola Chicago hosted unranked Valparaiso, and the Ramblers were able to beat Valparaiso 54-52 as Cameron Krutwig's 13 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists would lead the way. With this win, 22nd ranked Loyola Chicago is now 19-4 as they are 14-2 in the MVC, and with this loss, Valparaiso is 8-15 as they are 5-9 in the MVC. And last but not least, the 23rd ranked Kansas Jayhawks went to Kansas State, and they were able to pull off a 59-41 win behind Marcus Garrett's 14 points. With this win, 23rd ranked Kansas is 16-7 as they are 10-5 in the Big 12, and with this loss, unranked Kansas State is 5-8 as they are 1-13 in the Big 12. Looking out to what's going on today, what's slated for the schedule. Within the top 25, 6th ranked Houston will go to unranked Wichita State. That game will be on ESPN2. At 7 o'clock, 21st ranked Wisconsin is going to host 11th ranked Iowa on ESPN. At 8 o'clock, unranked Penn State is going to host 4th ranked Ohio State on Big Ten Network. At 9 o'clock, 1st ranked Gonzaga is going to host unranked St. Mary's on ESPN. At the same time, at 9 o'clock, 3rd ranked Michigan are going to host unranked Rutgers on FS1. And at 10 o'clock, unranked Fresno State is going to host 25th ranked San Diego State on CBS Sports Network at 10 o'clock. And looking forward to, staying within the arena, but of course, switching to the ice, checking out what's going on with the NHL, because that season is it's starting to get underway as well. But looking out to the big performances last night, because they're only able to stay within their same division, the Edmonton Oilers were able to beat the Winnipeg Jets 3-2. As the Jets scored their last goal in the third period, it just wouldn't be enough. Connor McDavid would finish with 2 assists on the night, and with this win, the Edmonton Oilers are currently sitting third in the North Division as they and the Canadiens are sitting 6 points behind the first place Toronto Maple Leafs. The Florida Panthers were able to beat the Carolina Hurricanes 4-3 in overtime behind Huberdeau's 2 goals and 1 assist to pick up their 10th win of the season. And with this season, the Florida Panthers are sitting at the top of the Central Division alongside the Chicago Blackhawks, a point ahead of the Lightning and the Hurricanes. The Toronto Maple Leafs were able to beat the Ottawa Senators in Toronto 2-1 as their goalie would finish with 27 saves. Austin Matthews had a goal as well for the Maple Leafs, picking up their 12th win of the season. With this win, they're sitting at the top of the North Division by 6 points over the Canadiens and the Oilers. Jumping out to Detroit, the Chicago Blackhawks were able to beat the Red Wings 2-0 as their goalie Lankinen would be the top star of the game as the Blackhawks picked up their 9th win of the season. And with this 9th win of the season, the Blackhawks are tied with the Florida Panthers at the top of the Central Division, even though the Blackhawks have played 4 more games than the Panthers, which gives the Panthers space to surpass them. And then last but not least, the Vancouver Canucks went to Calgary and were able to beat the Flames 5-1. JT Miller, their center, would be the top star of the game as he had a goal and an assist. With their 8th win on the season, the Vancouver Canucks are currently sitting second from the bottom of the North Division alongside the Calgary Flames, as both of these teams are 9 points behind the first place Toronto Maple Leafs. Looking out to the big marquee matchups for today, of course, the Bruins are going to host the Devils on ESPN Plus at 7 o'clock. Also at 7 o'clock, the Columbus Blue Jackets are going to host the Nashville Predators on ESPN Plus. And those are the big ones that you got to look forward to. And then last but not least, taking it out to the international circuit, as, of course, we finished with the first Wednesday of Champions League play, and just looking out to how those games fared. They were played at the same time. On one side of it, you had Juventus versus Porto, as you had Cristiano Ronaldo and the reigning Italian champs face off against the best team in Portugal. In this game, Porto would beat Juventus. Both of their goals would come within like the first minute or two of each half. And then Juventus' goal will come from Federico Chiesa, which would bring them within one. Their next game will be in Juventus, but Porto does lead on aggregate. And also, at the same time, Borussia Dortmund was able to beat Sevilla FC, the reigning Europa League champs, 3-2, as two of Borussia Dortmund's goals would come from their elite Norwegian striker Erling Braut Haaland in the first half, and then Dortmund's first goal from Daoud would come off of an assist from Haaland. So Haaland, of course, with 2 goals and an assist in a Champions League game. And the next game will be in Borussia Dortmund next month, but they do lead this on aggregate just based off how it went. And also there was Premier League action as well. Manchester City was able to beat Everton 3-1, as their goals will come from Phil Foden, Mahrez, and then Bernardo Silva, just respectively. And with this win, Manchester City remains at the top of the Premier League. They played the same amount of games as the top 6 teams. Right now, they're sitting 10 games over second place Manchester United and third place Leicester City. Just to show you how, and Manchester City hasn't even been at the top of the table for that long. And right now, it looks as though they are going to run away because they're only getting better and better. And Kevin De Bruyne, their elite center attacking mid, is out. So and their elite striker Sergio Aguero. So, Manchester City is looking like an incredibly dominant powerhouse within the Premier League. And also, speaking of teams at the top of their leagues, Atletico Madrid faced off against Levante, and this game would end in a draw, as Atletico Madrid's only goal will come from Marcos Llorente in the 37th minute. And looking at La Liga now, they're still sitting on top, as they are leading second place Real Madrid by 6 points in the table, even though they played one less game. So that gives them a good amount of space. So they've done a really good job in the beginning of the season to pad or create separation, so that even in a draw like this, they still sit comfortably on top of La Liga. And that was everything from yesterday, and looking forward to today. Today is the first Thursday of Europa League. Starting at 10, you're going to see the first leg of Dynamo Kiev versus Club Brugge. But looking through but as the day goes on, at 12:55, Real Sociedad is going to host Manchester United, as Manchester United finished third in their table, and they eventually got dropped down. The top team the second team in Serie A, AC Milan, will face off against Red Star Belgrade at 12:55, as of course that's going to be a very big game. Tottenham Hotspur are going to go face off against Wolfsberger. And those, I think, are the big matchups to look forward to. But, of course, there's a lot of games in between, as, of course, the chase for the Europa League crown is continuing today. And it's still a good amount of great soccer. And that's basically what's going on with the big teams, the big matchups, and with the elite matches. And with that said, I want to thank everyone for listening to all 27 minutes of this piece. I hope all is well. And once the exhibitions today are done, I will get back to you tomorrow on Friday, February 19th, 2021. But with that said, once again, I'm James Sims in this quarantine. This is The Elite. Thanks for listening to my piece, and peace out. I'll see you tomorrow.